A warship has been attacked in the Red Sea as confirmed by the Pentagon. Oh boy. This is a huge issue given the fact that Israel-Hamas war, and not to mention it could trigger even more attacks on American troops as well as in the cities here in our country. I mean, just imagine what could happen if these attacks happen in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, even Washington, D.C. And is President Joe Biden willing to wage World War III and send a direct message to Iran if more Americans are affected here and overseas?
The Pentagon reporting that an American warship has come under attack in the Red Sea. There are also reports that there were several commercial ships in that area at the same time. Now, rebels in Yemen later claimed that the attacks on the two ships they said were linked to Israel, but did not acknowledge aiming at a U.S. Navy ship. The Pentagon says the ship targeted is the USS Carney, which is a naval destroyer. No reports of injuries or damages. Last night, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was at the Reagan National Defense Forum in Southern California, and he told the audience the U.S. must remain the world's arsenal.
The U.S. military is here to win our country's wars and to win them decisively. We will always try to deter conflict, but if we have to defend our country, we will fight and we will win.
Well, Austin sounds pretty confident, huh? So why do I feel like somebody's going to just shout in the background and ask, you and what army? But I digress. We probably have secrets within our military that we have no idea of, and this is something that needs to be addressed. But we all know that our petroleum reserves are low, and the same could be said for recruits coming into the army. So I think a lot of people are finding it hard to believe that the United States at this current state is still a force to be reckoned with. Tell you what, guys, I'm gonna ask you guys because you guys are all sharp. Do you think that anyone still fears the United States in terms of war under the current leadership? Comment a quick yes or no to answer that. And while you guys are down there, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm here for you guys 24/7 to deliver the truth. Appreciate that, guys. Now, I asked about leadership because who else is going to lead the United States if we ever go into war? Which obviously brings me to President Joe Biden, as he's the big guy in the White House right now, right? You see, I get that he's probably trying to downplay these attacks because who wants a World War III, right? That's something that a warmongering president would do. But at the same time, these Iran-backed Houthi rebels continue to launch these drone attacks. Now, granted, the Pentagon didn't confirm that the attacks actually came from the Houthis. Although, by the time that I put this out, that might be the hottest story out. Would you allow your soldiers to be attacked for like 4 or 5 hours? It's also affecting commercial transport ships, and I think it was around late November when missiles from the rebels landed near another U.S. warship as it was trying to assist a vessel that was linked to Israel. And while all of this is happening out at sea, our troops in Iraq and Syria continue to be attacked. The Pentagon says that it's all right because these recent attacks have been mostly unsuccessful, even though American troops have been injured.
When it comes to these Iranian proxies and it comes to these attacks in places like Iraq and Syria, I don't want to minimize the danger that those present, but most of those attacks have been largely unsuccessful. Whereas our strikes are always on target and they're always going to hit the intended target. And it's going to diminish IRGC and Iranian proxy capability in the region. So our forces in
general, right? It doesn't. I mean no disrespect, sir, but if it did, then Iran would stop this, and these Iranian proxy attacks would cycle back. That they're not.
Yeah. Well, look, again, this is not the first time these groups have conducted these kinds of attacks. So clearly it's an effort to try to exploit the situation.
Just to make this story clear, okay? Since October 17th of this year, we've seen almost 80 attacks on our troops in both Syria and Iraq, leaving dozens of U.S. service members injured and one contractor dead. And yeah, I know that the president has retaliated in some way by carrying out a couple of airstrikes against facilities linked to Iran, but just like this rebel reported, the attacks on our people have not stopped. And also, were you aware that the Houthis are not on the official U.S. terrorist list? They were before, but President Biden revoked it after he took office in 2021. The most ironic part of all of this is that these attacks on commercial ships, they were happening way back then, and still, they removed them from the list.
The United States government will revoke terrorist designations of Yemen's Houthi movement, reversing a policy imposed in the final days of the Trump administration. But it will not be lifting sanctions on some members of its leadership. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made the announcement on Friday, saying that 3 Houthi leaders will remain subject to U.S. sanctions when the terror designation is lifted on the 16th of February. He also said Washington would continue to closely monitor the group and may impose additional sanctions on other individuals. Specifically, according to Blinken, the U.S. will be targeting any members responsible for the ongoing attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea and missile strikes on Saudi Arabia.
What did I tell you, folks? I mean, isn't it amazing how you're not hearing all of this all over the news? Because who knows how embarrassed this administration would be knowing that the same people who are attacking our troops and may possibly coordinate attacks here on American soil, they were removed from the terrorist list by, well, the same administration.
في القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى صباح يومنا هذا عملية استهداف. الله أكبر، الموت لأمريكا، الموت لإسرائيل، اللعنة عليهم، النصر للإسلام. لبيك يا رب، لبيك يا رب.
The question is, will will President Biden finally decide to act against Iran and end this once and for all? I mean, he should be able to make those calls, right? Or should our troops, and heck, even us here at home, continue to be under the threat of terror attacks? We've had cyber attacks left and right these past few years, and we're kind of left wondering what's going to be done to protect the American people. So here's what former ambassador to Iraq, Nathan Sales, said when asked about these attacks that our troops continue to face.
Iran is behind everything that we're seeing in terms of attacks directed on U.S. forces. We're seeing Iranian proxies attack Americans in Syria and Iraq and now from Yemen. And they're going to keep doing it until we make them stop. You know, we heard from the Secretary of Defense, tough talk. Time to see action to match the words. There's a couple of things that the administration needs to do. One, instead of blowing up empty munitions depots in the desert in the middle of the night, you're going to actually have to take action and take strikes against the people responsible for these attacks. And that doesn't just mean the proxies, that also means the Iranian puppet masters, the ones who are pulling the strings.
What do you guys think? Should we prepare for the next world war? Will this administration actually do something and protect its own people? Or is this just something else happening here that you and I don't know about? Make sure you guys share your thoughts in the comments down below. And before I go, I want to thank you guys for keeping me company. Thanks for liking the videos, and I'm gonna see you on the next one.